All right, everybody. I am slightly off, time-wise, by my count. Okay, looks like 10 minutes. 10 minutes, nothing crazy, nothing to write home about, but we will add it to the docket. Let's see. Hold on. Yeah, that's good. All right, we'll add it to the docket. We are probably getting towards a point where you guys may want to start cashing shit in. All right. Yeah, I know 10. All right, I'll add it. Let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick for me showing up. All right. Where's late penalties at? Yeah, here we go. All right. Shit, we're nearly at 100. Oh my god. We're nearly at 100. 100 means that over... That's not that bad, though. I don't think that's that bad, if you think about it. Because that just means that it's taken a long time. We're not even at 2 hours yet. And I've been doing this late penalty... How long have I been doing this late penalties thing for? I've been doing the late penalties thing for a while, right? So it's taken some time for me to get to this point. Wait, let me show you guys the penalties again, so you guys can consider. You guys can actually cash in on multiple penalties at this point. You can make me eat the habanero and make me do a video on Usopp. Those are multiple things that can be done. The law cosplay is on the table as well. I really want to stay away from an in defense of Wano video. I never want to do that. Pretty much never want to do that. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. All right. But yeah, and you can make me read one chapter or episode of a series chosen by you all at some point soon. So yeah, you guys got some juicy penalties lined up. All right. Let's see what's going on here. What is going on? All right. Isaac St. Charles, thanks a lot. Guys, don't cash early for easy task. Wait for waifu. This may lead to some divides in chat. Because ultimately it comes down to what do the people want me to do the most. I feel like waifu might be pretty high up there. In defense of Wano video might be high up there. We just have to wait and see. Law cosplay is tempting. Bollywood dance or bust. That's not an option. Bollywood dance is never happening. There's never going to be a Bollywood dance. Doflamingo cosplay. If I'm allowed to just do the glasses, I'm down to do a Doflamingo cosplay. If I'm allowed to just do the glasses. All right, everybody. Okay. Bollywood dance is an actual punishment. Yeah, I don't want anything that would make me hate myself. That's never going to happen, all right? So these all need to be things that I wouldn't enjoy. They make life difficult, but they're okay, you know? TomTom says, Morj, reminder to make chat commands to show points. That's a good reminder. We have a little channel meeting that we do every Wednesday. Like myself, channel editor, our virtual assistant. We have a little channel meeting that we do every Wednesday just to go over outside to-dos, not related to creating videos. I will make sure to tell her this time. In fact, hold on. Let me make a note right now. Make a note right this instant. All right. Here, hold on. I'll do it right now. Let's see. Let's please. All right, it's done. Now it will happen for sure, unless she forgets to remind me. But she's usually pretty good at remembering to remind us of stuff. So we should be good on that. All right, done. Anything else you guys want me to make a reminder for? Get it in now. Andrew says, how many points release the Wano analysis at the moment, regardless of the state it's in? 1,000. 2,000. Something crazy. Guma Bibla says, how's an Usopp video during the Elbaf arc a punishment? I don't know. You guys voted for it. You guys said to do it. You guys said have to do it. I'm down to change that one. Do you guys have a different thing you want me to do? The thing is that, like, it can't be a video that, like, actually tanks the channel. You know, it should still be a video that people find interesting. The thing is that Usopp videos... I did a video on Usopp heading into Elbaf before Elbaf, and that did solid. That did fine. People generally aren't interested in Usopp as a character until it's actually time for some juicy Usopp shit to happen. Because when Usopp has his peak character writing moments, they are the best in the Straw Hat crew, in my opinion. Nah, that's not... But I don't want to get into competition of whatever. But Usopp has some phenomenal character writing moments and character writing arcs throughout the story. So it's not like a punishment necessarily. It's just anytime I'm being made to do a video on a certain topic that like if you said something like, hey, do a video on Shanks or something, that's not a because like I can do a video on Shanks at pretty much any point in time and it will probably do decently well. If you ask me to do a video on Usopp just unprompted, it has solid potential to not do well. The story needs to feed certain things about Usopp for people to be invested in Usopp, if that makes sense. So that's why I view it as a punishment, because for me as a content creator, it can be a dicey thing. It could just be a video that just tanks. So that's why I made the stipulation that it should be, if I'm allowed to do it during a point in Elbaf of my choosing, then it should be fine. Fading Fizz says, reminder to ask Chad about Vagabond again. I am going to read Vagabond. I made up my mind. I think here's the plan, all right? Current plan for Morj's next watches/reads. Current plan for Morj's next watches/reads, all right? 1. Sakamoto Days, continuing it, plus Mob Psycho concurrently, okay? 2. Kingdom or Vagabond. One of these two is coming next. If it's Kingdom next, then it's Kingdom. If it's Vagabond next, then it's Vagabond. The thing is, I've already started Kingdom. I would probably still read the first arc again. I thought it's a fantastic... I think Kingdom's first arc is like a fucking phenomenal first arc, actually. It's actually... Kingdom's first arc is pretty special in that I think out of all of the stories I've ever read, it's the only first arc that succeeds in, without being too long. So either you do a first arc that's very, very long, like Vinland Saga's first arc, the prologue arc. That's a very, very long storyline. And it ends up being a fantastic storyline, right? But either you do, like in most traditional first arcs, they tend to be fairly, either they're very simplistic or there's something like Vinland Sagas where they're very long. But generally, any first arc in any story, it's not that good. Like, it's fine, you know? I think Kingdoms is the first starting storyline that I've ever read of a series that actually got kind of ambitious with it. It didn't get crazy long. I think it was 30 chapters, maybe. And I feel like in those 30 chapters, it was the most ambitious first storyline I've ever read for a manga, in that it set up like a whole... It's the first arc. It's not major spoilers. It set up like a whole rebellion, essentially. A fairly large cast of characters. It did quite a bit of world building very fast. And it had the main character go through like a whole ass arc. Like a heroic arc and like big battles and stuff like that. And like defeating boss... like a important boss fight and everything. It did all of that in a remarkably short amount of time, and it was very good. I think it's the most... It just does the most in a very short amount of chapters, more than I've ever seen of any other manga. Like, even, like, Berserk, you got to do the Black Swordsman arc before you do the Golden Age, and then the Golden Age is a very, very long, drawn-out storyline, right? Vinland Saga, prologue arc, phenomenal first arc, but very long, drawn-out. Yeah, Kingdom just does... It does, like, a full mini-ass, like... epic storyline right off the bat in just a very short amount of time, and it works, which is... It's really, really impressive, honestly. Very impressive. I think the only reason I fell off reading it is because it almost did too much too fast, in that it does its first little epic storyline, which is very, very good, and then it has a time skip. And from that prologue section, there's almost no cliffhangers, really. There's no, like, continuing plot lines that, like, you're itching to get to the next thing, because you kind of understand, okay, we just read the prologue and now the main story is going to start, but there's not really a carryover thing that's like, oh shit, I'm itching to read the next thing because there's this open-ended cliffhanger, there's these open-ended plot threads, etc. It's kind of like, okay, we just told you like a cool little short mini epic. Now there's a 2-year time skip, and now things are going to start basically from ground zero, kind of. That was the only, because I thought that it was really, really strong. I just didn't. I was just like, okay, I'm going to take a little break before I get back into reading this, and then the break just ended up being 4 years. So, yeah, I think Kingdom is a phenomenal starting point. Like, it maybe Attack on Titan. I think Attack on Titan's opening arc is also really, really good, but that's largely, I don't think it's as grand as Kingdom's opening arc. Attack on Titan's first arc really hooks you just because like the premise is so riveting, and like the horror aspect, the level of tension, all the crazy shit that happens is very fast. Unless you count the opening arc as him trying to get into school and the academy and stuff. So even then, it feel like it's got like a little bit like Attack on Titan arcs. Let's see Attack on Titan story arcs. What would you call Attack on Titan story arcs? Yeah, prologue arc. Yeah, so I'd say the Battle of the Tross District. It has a phenomenal first chapter. No. I think... Yeah, I guess Attack on Titan you could also argue, like, it has a really, really strong... Attack on Titan has a phenomenally strong start. That's partly why it gets so many people into the series really fast. It's just that Kingdoms is more of a traditional, like, little epic shonen storyline, but it just does it right away, whereas most other... I know Kingdom's not technically shonen, but it's shonen-esque, right? Whereas most others, it takes some time to set everything up. I think Kingdom just sets everything up the most efficiently I've ever seen to tell an epic sort of rebellion storyline. Anyway. Hey, that's mildly adequate. Says, what was his final take on Fate Zero? I'm not finishing it. I mean, maybe I'll finish it, but there's 2 episodes left. I just can't push myself over the finish line. I just don't even feel like it. I care almost nothing about Emir Kiritsugu versus Kotomina Kire. The story just didn't make me care enough personally. I could get into detail as to why that is. I strongly feel like I felt like with Fate Unlimited Blade Works, the premise was initially interesting, and then the premise was ass, and then I felt when I started watching Fate Zero, it's like, this feels like it's going to execute the premise really well. And then I just, again, after some period of time, I was like, all right, this just isn't... It's got the juiciest premise on its hands, and it just fucking squanders it with, with weak character writing. The only dynamic that I enjoyed in, literally the only dynamic I enjoyed in all of Fate Zero, was Iskander and Waver. Alexander the Great and Waver. Phenomenal character dynamic, phenomenal character. Just, that was great. That stuff was great. You can understand why I kind of exited 2 episodes before the end of it. If that makes sense. All-Powerful God Analyst says, yo, Morj, nice Morjcast this month. Thanks a lot. I don't know if you're talking about the Pirate King podcast or the Morjcast. I thought that they were both really good. Morjcast comes out every week, so maybe referring to last week's Morjcast. If you're interested in getting every weekly Morjcast that comes out, I literally just recorded the one that comes out tomorrow, which is a pretty dense one as well in terms of getting into... That's why I was late, by the way. I was finishing up the Morjcast. Yeah, if you want to catch that, you can become a member on YouTube, or you can support me on Patreon. Sid P, thanks for 5. Do you have time to do this, but not the Wano analysis? Come on, man. Well, this is... Yeah, I have time to do this because this is part of our scheduled stream that we do every Monday. Isaac St. Charles... So it's built into my schedule. Isaac St. Charles, thanks a lot. Guys, don't cash early for easy... No, we covered that. All right. Continuing on. Skull Kid says, hated MC if that series, though. Fading Face says, any new posters coming, Morj? Okay, thank you, Fading Face. I appreciate it. Yes, there are 4 posters right here. 4 new posters right here. If you guys are interested, they are all available. These are all very different art styles than what the artist has been doing so far. So I think Witheria is a very kind of it's more of a dreamlike take on Witheria. So the purple hues, purple and pink hues. Fishman Island is very watercolory and abstract. This is maybe my favorite painting so far. Elbath Village, if you get a look at how he does the castle, I think that that's very, very unique in terms of changing up the art style. And then Subodhi is beautiful. The sun rays coming through in Subodhi, the bubbles, the trees. I love the new art styles. So like New Year, changing up the art style a little bit. It still clearly fits in with all the rest of the travel posters, so it slots into the collection nicely, but he wanted to evolve how he's doing things. So these are a lot more... It's not just more detail, it's just a more adventurous style that he's going for as well. So I love these quite a bit. I'm going to drop these in the chat for y'all. Hey, that's mildly adequate. I think that's kind of a large take, but I understand Fate Zero isn't for everyone. It's one of my favorite anime, though. Okay, like, I don't want to get too much... Like, I understand that it's a very, very popular series. I can just... Okay, I'm not gonna say wide sweeping statements on it or anything like that. I came in very excited. I think I had an open mind about it for the majority of it through, and I really wanted to like it. I just felt like over time I did not find a lot of the characters particularly compelling, or I just find a lot of... I don't think it did that much to make me care about most of the characters. I think, except for Iskander and Waver, and there's a lot of... Instead of just saying what I don't like, if I were to do an analysis, basically, I could quickly break down why their dynamic I felt worked so well, as opposed to why I felt like most other character dynamics. While I think what I enjoyed most was a lot of the plotting, scheming, and strategies that came out through it. I think a lot of the character writing I felt wasn't that strong. It was strong in spots, but not enough to warrant the amount of time spent on dialogue and trying to build. Like, I think for a story that spends that much amount of time on just character dialogue and interactions, right? So it does spend a ton of time on it. For so much of it to, in my opinion, fall flat and not craft particularly unique characters whatsoever is extremely disappointing for me. That's the thing. It's that, like, it's a show that almost would be better off if it just focused on the action elements of it and the plotting, scheming elements of it, and just rode that, in my opinion. Yeah. Again, I think the only character dynamic that like felt like it flowed very naturally and hit the right beats in terms of like actually endearing you to the characters while also hitting some sort of serious aspects of development, growth, etc., was Iskander and Waver. I think part of the fundamental problem is like when you write a show where every single character or almost every single character is very solemn and it speaks in a very sort of monotone sort of manner, you're not crafting character dynamics that draw you in, right? You want some level of distinction, some level of... You need some level of enjoyability and like fun and like pop to certain moments to hit a sort of engaging dynamic, right? So like I found the two engaging dynamics to be Iskander and Waver, and then like Kirei and Gilgamesh, because those were actually... There's actual spice to some of their conversations, and even with Kirei and Tosaka, right? So, but a lot of what was going on with like Artoria, Iliasville, Kiritsugu, a lot of the other characters, right? It was just not particularly interesting character writing to me. Goomba Boomba, thanks for bringing Yonko to your member for 27 months. Morj, give us your best. Aw, super. Nah, I just can't do that. Maybe as a punishment. Maybe we do a penalty. Oh, Faithful, thanks for bringing Yonko to your member for 20 months. Morj, are you planning on a raid fail type theory that can be considered a hot take, but you're confident about? So here's the thing. The big thing with the raid fail, similar to ZKK, which is not my theory. I argued against ZKK for all of Wano, but people forget that. Sometimes I got thrown in with ZKK as well. The big thing with the raid fail and ZKK is that they went to fundamentally... The raid fail even more than ZKK. They went to fundamentally... the reason they're different from like a lot of other theories is it was a fundamentally different concept of what the arc was about and what the arc's actual storyline would be. It was a fundamentally different concept. That's why it's hard to just be like, oh, Morj is going to have a new hot take or something like that, like the raid fail. Like, sometimes when I drop theories, people will say in the comments like, oh, is this going to be the new raid fail or something like that? I'm like, no, it can't be, because it's like, if you look at, that's fundamentally misunderstanding why the raid fail was such a big theory. The raid fail is basically just like saying that the whole arc is totally different than what it seems like on the surface, right? So if you look at my more recent videos, right? Here, let's see. Yeah, if you look at my more recent videos, right? Yeah, let's look at a couple. Okay, Shanks' brother is the man marked by flames. So that's like a theory that either it's true or it's not true, right? Like, but it's not going to totally, like we'll find out soon enough, you know, if it's the man marked by flames or not. And it's like, okay, if it's not the man marked by flames, then the story goes on, right? I think it's very likely, but, you know, if it's not, then the story goes on. Either this is a true idea of like what happened with Loki's backstory, or it's not, right? Maybe there is a god up there, maybe there isn't. Maybe the Thousand Sunny will become Pluton and Elbaf, or maybe it won't. These are all things that I believe, and I think there's strong evidence for, but it doesn't like drastically like we're still too early in the arc to for any of these to be like make or break things. However, with the raid fail, it's basically just like a theory that continually over the course of the arc is saying that like the whole storyline, like the entire story, like none of these dictate the entire storyline. Arguably this one does, but like we're still early in the arc where we're speculating on the villain, so it doesn't really matter that much just yet. But the raid fail is just like a whole, like it's basically saying the whole storyline is a different direction than what the storyline is at the moment. So it basically was a theory that addressed everything that's happening in Wano and saying that it's going to go a different direction, right? So that's why it was just like almost any other theory fell under the umbrella of the raid fail. Because if I'm talking about stuff like, yeah, I think that the Tobiropo have Devil Fruit Zoan Awakenings or something, right? And this is after the Tobiropo have been seemingly defeated, then that falls under the idea that the raid's going to shift in a different direction. So I don't have a view like that in Elbaf. It's literally too early for any view like that to exist in Elbaf, because Elbaf literally doesn't have an established story just yet at this point in time. So I don't even have a perspective on what the story could be as an alternative to what we have at the moment, because we don't have anything yet. You get what I'm saying? Also, let's get the stream likes up to 50. Let's get the stream likes up to 50 real quick. And we're going to get into our tier list in a second. Anyway, this is my plan. Sakamoto Days, continuing it, and then either Kingdom or Vagabond. I think I'd probably... Let me give you guys a poll. What to read next? After Sakamoto Days. I think I'll read Sakamoto Days first, because it's light and like fast. And not that many chapters. Akash Panda, thanks for the 5. Watched all Black Clover episodes after hearing you praised it. Loved it. Oh, you enjoyed it, man. That's good to hear. You were right about the Strahd vibes. Yeah, I just like the Strahd vibes in Black Clover. They just have, it's just Strahd vibes. And, like, it's not, like, the best or most groundbreaking series, but, like, it's okay for a series to just be enjoyable. Your favorite character in arc? Question mark. Noelle and Underwater Temple for me. You know, the Underwater Temple, when I first watched that arc, that was the arc that actually made me open my mind to the idea that Black Clover is actually like a series that I'm really loving and enjoying. Like it made me realize that, holy shit, I actually really, really enjoyed the series now. Up till then, I was kind of just watching it it was like a thing to watch. And my friend kept saying to keep watching because it was going to get better or whatever. The Water Temple really, really, like I would recommend to anybody if you're trying to try Black Clover or something, get to the Water Temple arc and get through it. And I think by the end, you will feel a lot of feelings that you otherwise would only feel in a series like One Piece. Because the Water Temple arc executes essentially a One Piece-esque storyline. What the Black Bulls go through in that arc, it feels very One Piece-esque. It's like a similar to an Enies Lobby type vibe or a Alabasta type vibe in terms of how that... like, the story isn't as grand as either of those arcs, so don't come in with those expectations. But I'm just saying, the sense of satisfaction of like seeing the whole squad, the whole crew, essentially come up against a certain type of challenge and set up a certain level of tension and have them all get their own fights and arcs and everything like that, and then a good sort of feel-good conclusion. It was the first arc in Shonen that I've enjoyed like that since One Piece. Not saying it's my favorite arc in Shonen like that since One Piece, but I'm saying in terms of the type of joy that you get, it was the first thing since One Piece. And even One Piece arcs itself haven't given me that sort of same. Like One Piece has been really good in a lot of other ways, but I still don't think there's been any One Piece arc that hits a sort of like just the feel good sense of getting to see the crew front and center, since like crew front and center overcoming challenges in a very satisfying way for all of them across the board, and all of them getting really good moments and fights, etc., and really focusing on them front and center. I don't think we've gotten that for myself personally since pre-time skip. So Black Clover really scratched that itch, even if it's in a much more simplified version than what you would get in a big One Piece arc. So yeah. What to read next? Okay, so it seems like Vagabond's slightly winning. At the end of the day, it's more likely than not I go with Kingdom first, just because I already started it. But what's longer? What's a longer read? And as for my favorite character in arc, my favorite character is Yami. Yami in Black Clover is my favorite mentor figure character in any anime manga ever. Favorite mentor figure character. You know, he fits the same role as like a Kakashi or like a Gojo or whatever. But I just enjoy Yami's vibe and his approach to it and his unique style. And Yami is one of the funniest, most enjoyable characters in anime manga for me, period. I love that character concept. He regularly makes me laugh. He's got some fantastic quotes. No joke whatsoever. No joke. So he has okay, so let me start with this, all right? He has one very generic quote, which is, surpass your limits, okay? And he'll, like, say it very casually, like, oh, if you're fucked, then you just have to surpass your limits, basically. Like, he'll throw that out and tell subordinates they have to just like, get through this by surpassing their limits frequently. And it's just a silly, generic anime quote or whatever. But in the back of my mind, like, something sticks to me about that. So, like, I literally, like, anytime that we're really behind on a YouTube video or something, or, like, there's a big project, I literally tell my editor... I'd literally tell him, like, yeah, we'll be fine. Just surpass your limits and get through the editing process of this or whatever. He's like, dude, I'm going to have to work, like a lot of hours to finish this one. I'm like, that's okay as long as you surpass your limits. So I don't think he finds it funny, but I find it very funny. Now, in terms of actually funny Yami quotes, one of my favorite little quote, like throwaway quotes that he has is, like, there's a giant attack coming for him, like a fucking gigantic attack that he very clearly cannot block or do anything about. So the attack's coming for him, and he's like, oh shit, I can't, like, internal monologue. Oh shit, I can't do anything about that. This is too much for me to stop. What am I going to do? And then his next thought is just like, oh well, I'll leave it to the me of 5 seconds from now to figure it out. And I'm just like, that's a really fun, like, he prepares to just deal with it. I'm like, that's a really, really funny, but refreshing perspective. He's like, if you read the way it's portrayed or watch the way it's portrayed or whatever and see the facial expressions and the attitude or whatever, it's just, and the demeanor associated with it, it's like he's literally about to die and he's like, what do I do? And his conclusion is, there's nothing I can do. Okay, I'll leave it to the me of 5 seconds from now to figure out because the attack's coming. So I just thought that was really funny. I don't know. I love that character a lot. Yeah, Noelle is probably the best written character in Black Clover, though. Thomas Chambers, thanks for the 5. Have you seen Gurren Lagann? Any thoughts if you have? I still need to watch Gurren Lagann, because I watched the first episode. The first episode didn't really hook me, but I know it gets really good. So maybe I'll go back and revisit it at some point. JWP, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 25 months. I hope you enjoyed the podcast that recently dropped. What's good, Morj, man? Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you too, man. Thanks for swinging through as usual. And thanks for the support as usual for so long. Growth Stonks, thanks for the 5. The Atom Tree is introduced in 431, then revealed in chapter 1131. It's possible Shanks' brother was first mentioned in chapter 434 and was revealed in chapter 1134. Chapter 434. Oh, you're saying 434 is the chapter that Shanks and Whitebeard first meet. Interestingly enough, like, while I don't believe that Oda times up numbers so perfectly, the reality, like, here's the reality. One Piece is a series with 1,100 chapters plus, right? So there's going to be lots of times that something happens to take place on a very similar chapter number to something else, just out of sheer coincidence. That's just gonna fucking happen, right? Like, it's just like Zoro's gonna end up fighting, you know, someone like, I don't know, Shiryu or something on a chapter number maybe 80, like 1280 or 98 or something like that, and people might be like, holy shit, that's the same as like Zoro fighting Mr. 1 in chapter 198 or something. It's like, no, that shit, like, eventually things are just gonna time up. So I don't read too much into that. At the same time, I am aware of certain, like, the second gear fourth thing that seems deliberate. Shanks' brother, that's an interesting point, just because if you look back, so you mentioned 1134, right? Interestingly, if you go back to chapter, so 434, right? That's when Shanks and Whitebeard are talking, right? 434, that's when they meet. If you go back 200 chapters to 234, right? That's also the chapter that Whitebeard is introduced, and the Shanks and am I screen sharing here? Yeah, and the Shanks and Whitebeard meetup is set up. So that feels like yeah, maybe it's not coincidental. Maybe there's something to it. You know, maybe there's something to it. Who knows? It's hard to say. What you're referring to with 434 and 1134, I assume, is like Whitebeard talking about having gotten the scar, perhaps from Shanks's brother or whatever. So yeah, that's also possible. Tom, thanks for the 2. Morj, please, Morj, Kaiji. Even the anime is good. Trust. I have Kaiji on my list. Don't worry, I have Kaiji on my list. It's just not next. I'm gonna watch Mob Psycho before I watch Kaiji. And I'm going to read Sakamoto Days and then either Kingdom or Vagabond before Kaiji. Which is more chapters? What's longer, Vagabond or Harry J says Loki sounds like a shitty employer? No, because my editor also is an owner of the channel. Like, he's part of, like, he is also an owner. He is also an owner of the channel. We've had that arrangement for years now, basically. Like, the further and further I got with the channel, because he was my friend, and we'd been doing, like, I had a video making business with him even before I was in YouTube. Then I started doing YouTube stuff on the side. We used to make videos for small businesses, and then at a certain point, the YouTube channel was going, and like I would already go to him and occasionally pay him to edit certain videos. And at a certain point, it was just like, okay, what will be the best for this channel and fast track things the best, and like get us both set is basically if you also become an owner of the channel, and I'm handling everything in terms of like video writing, scripting, recording, all of the actual One Piece stuff, and then you're handling all of the back end. So he doesn't just do the editing, right? He also, in terms of the business stuff, because like Morj Inc. is actually a thing, everything that's business related on the back end, including how things go with our accountant, taxes, stuff like that. The way the Morj store is set up, he has much more of a handle on this stuff than I do. So we've really split a lot of the stuff over time. So I'm not being a shitty employer, all right? This is his money too. This is his revenue too. And I'm like, we just got to push through and get this video out. It's not just me being like, hey, we have to push this video out. It's like, nah, dude, let's just get this. Let's get our shit together. Let's get this video out. Kingdom is twice as long as Vagabond. Shit, so maybe I should read Vagabond first. JWP, thanks for the 5. Finally, Morj is reading Mob Psycho. I'm going to watch Mob Psycho. 10 out of 10 series. It's one of my favorite characters ever. Excited for your thoughts. Okay, interesting. All right, Morj tier list is going to start in a second, 10 minutes later. All right, you know what? Good call out. Let's get it started. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 in the meantime. Let's go. Yeah, let me pull this shit up. That's also why, by the way, when I used to live in Maryland, because that's where he lives. When I used to live in Maryland, I used to refer to him not as the editor, but like the producer for the channel, because I would go to his house to record videos. So he was also like basically the camera person. But then ever since I moved, I basically had to, handle the recording stuff myself, obviously. So, but he helped me get that set up and everything too. That's why any videos, if you go back to older videos where you see me and my background is like a nice ass house, that's me filming at his family's house, basically. So, that's not my house is not that nice. That's his family's house. Where are we at? Oh yeah, Gags tier list. One Piece, Gags. The fuck? Well, what's happening here? Why is this frozen? What have I done? What the fuck? Oh, great. Okay, no. Is it frozen? What is happening here? Okay, no, it's moving. It's moving. Let me just move this to here. Okay. There we go. All right. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. The Low Man, thanks for the 5. Why is the Law cosplay punishment? Law is one of the coolest characters ever. Because I don't like Law. I don't like Law. I know everybody else likes Law. I don't like Law. Punishments are based on what I like or don't like, you know? Isaac St. Charles, you don't have to vote for it if you don't think it's a penalty. Isaac St. Charles, thanks a lot. Charlos final war matchup. He survives 3 attempt murders. He's secretly the strongest Celestial Dragon. His final war matchup is maybe Tama. Maybe Tama. I wonder who Tama's final war... Tama, at the growth rate that she's going at, she will solo Emu probably in the next couple weeks if Luffy doesn't get them first. Akash Panda says, Law Rant incoming, let's go. No, there's no Law Rant. I'm tapped out for Law Rants for a while. I need a real good trigger to get me to do another Law Rant. If we were doing Morj running Gags stream, it would be... Law Rants would probably be up there. Okay, so there's 2 ways we could do this, because we could do running Gags, or we could do all funny moments in Gags. I didn't think about that, because that could be fun too. I mean, let me look up running Gags. The hell? Why is everything running so slow right now? Maybe I think I need to restart my computer. I never restart my computer until things really, really start falling apart. Rachia says, Morj burned the witch. It's 5 chapters and 4 episodes. I don't feel like it, because if it's not going to turn into a real series, I don't really care. I also don't like... I feel like it fucks with Bleach's world building for no real reason other than Kubo was bored. Because I'm just like, why is there's like a Western version of Soul Society? Where the fuck were they when like Yu Habak was fucking everything up? Like, it just doesn't really fucking make any sense to me. Number 1 Morj running gag is never being on time, says BrownieBot. That would actually be a pretty fair running gag. That is actually probably the most consistent running gag. Did my search go through? No, my search did not go through. Didn't seem like it. Hello? Funny moments and gags. We could do all of them. I feel like running gags is easier. I feel like running gags is easier. Oh, and this one is nicely labeled. Everything is labeled here. So I'm inclined to do that. I think if we did all gags... If we did all gags, it's too difficult. Why is it... Come on, man. Load for me. Zayn Ali says Mihawk is the best gag. Avoid strong opponent. Suktu says because the western branch is the Quincy. Are they Quincy's? Don't tell me they're Quincy's. Doesn't make any sense. Stormy says they were weak as shit is what the fan base says. Who, the Burn the Witch squad or what? Brim, thanks for me. Yonko tier member for 4 months. Sanji simp gag straight to F tier. Yeah, it's just gotten really bad. It used to be fine. It used to be solid, honestly. I don't know what's happening here. I don't know why this is not loading. It's kind of frustrating. Okay, let's try one more time. One Piece running gags. Search. Let's give it a moment. They're not Quincy's? Yeah, that doesn't really make sense. Cone Killer confuses his best single gag is Zoro erasing Mermaid Kokoro from his mind. Yeah, that was funny because it's almost out of character for Zoro because he normally doesn't give a shit about stuff like that. But then seeing him also fall into that, the mermaid, the mermaid visualization of what they should be, that was funny. Yeah, people say they weren't in Thousand Year Blood War because the Western branch is ridiculously weak in comparison. I guess, but it's just... Then it's like, I don't know. Aro says, in the manga, Thousand Year Blood War exists, but due to Kubo directly being involved in the anime is the true canon, meaning it ranks above the manga. Yeah, that's my understanding. What is going on here? Okay, what if I type... Okay, One Piece running... Gags tier list. What if I do it into Google? Google won't let me down. Yeah? This is the same shit. Alright, same thing. So we basically got to the same point as before. I mean, we've got a good list here, so I don't really need anything else. So this does work. Just checking. It is the same thing. Yeah. Okay, so our options are either we do the best running gags. I think this is a better version of running gags. I think we're going to roll with this one. Or we do the best funny moments in all of One Piece. That's two very different streams. I think I'm going to do running gags. I think I'll do running gag. No, these are running gags too. These are running gags. Ah, shit, it's tricky because some of these are running gags, some of these are individual gags. A lot of these are really funny. A lot of these are gold. Then there's Sanji Nosebleed. Rakunda. Ah, shit. I like a lot of these. I think I'm going to do running gags, and then maybe we do One Piece funniest moments down the line. I think that's how we're going to do it. So we'll do One Piece funniest moments another time. I'm going to move this over so I don't forget about it. So it'll be over there. And then for the moment, we're going to stick with this. All right, we're going to stick with the initial concept. All right. Y'all ready? Y'all ready to get into this? Some of these are weak. I feel like they left some out. Okay. 45 degrees. I think we're opening up with some weak ones. All right. So Brooks 45 degrees, I think, is a C tier gag. I don't think it's that funny. I think that's why Oda kind of stopped doing it. It used to be a thing that he used to do, but then he kind of just dropped it. I don't remember the last time Oda did it. I don't think it's D tier, like it's bad. It's just, I think Oda realized that there's funnier aspects to work with Brook. I remember even it was like almost important to the point that if you remember, like literally if you go to whoops, 100 chapters off. If you go over here, right, 40 degrees. That's difficult, right? I just can't stop myself from slipping over if I try to do angles smaller than 45. So that's what that was a thing that we literally left off with pre-time skip as something Brook was striving to achieve. As far as I recall, Brook has never done the angle thing again. So we've never seen if he's grown to the point that he could do 40 degrees. The Lowman, thanks to the 5. Since Sanji gag used to be good, I think we should put it higher than F tier. It depends. Let's see how the gag is labeled. Because if the gag is labeled... Okay, No, it's just Sanji's perversion. Because I view Sanji's perversion as different than Sanji's what you would call Sanji's simp gag, right? Because the simp gag was funny. It was funny. It was genuinely funny. It was never extreme. His perversion gag is really what Oda turned it into post time skip, and it just feels always lazy and never funny. Maybe Japanese people, because they're weird, think it's funny, but I don't think it's I don't think it's funny. Okay, it has to be an F tier because it's the way it's labeled as Sanji's perversion. That's never funny. It never was funny, even pre-time skip. Stormy says he wasn't being a pervert when the gag was good. Exactly. Okay, continuing on. 45 degrees, all according to plan. This dude, it's just like, you're not... It's a victim of being one of the Fishman Pirates, the new Fishman Pirates. It's just like, you're already part of a bottom-tier villain group with almost no reason for the readers to care about them because they're not actual serious threats. They're a throwaway group of villains. And on top of that, they all get such little screen time that it just isn't... Like, the gag would have been... It's a funny gag in theory if it was more consistent. If there was like a Toby Roper or something like that, or some actual notable character that had this gag, then it might work. But I don't... Like, put it simply, does anyone remember this dude's name? Does anybody remember... I do this as my job. I do not remember this dude's fucking name. Does anyone know this dude's name? First person who can look up who knows his name without Googling it. Does anyone know his name without Googling it? No. Zio. Okay, apparently his name is Zio. Alright, so to me, Zio did not... Hey, quiet. To me, Zio did not do enough of an impression with his gag to make me remember his name. My name is Heraclezun. I think I like Heracles as a character. I just don't find the gag that funny. It's like, my name is Heraclezun. I don't know why this was supposed to be that. I think it was just like Oda thought it was like something mildly funny. Baby Five's dependence on others, I think is kind of a detail. It's just, you need me. I don't know. I just don't think it's that good. I think we're getting out some of the weaker gags out of the way. Like, it wasn't funny, I think, a single time that it happened. And then it suddenly was randomly revealed to have a sad backstory behind it. But I think Oda just didn't have time to do a good job with the backstory. Because I feel like with Senor Pink, Oda actually made I feel like she could easily have had just as affecting of a backstory as Senor Pink. But ultimately with backstories, it's not just like what the concept is, it's how much time we get to spend with it. So Oda chose to take Senor Pink and do a whole ass chapter exclusively around him, which is what made his backstory hit so hard. If we were just told what happened with Senor Pink, like in a couple panels, then it doesn't hit as hard. With Baby Five, because the chapter of Sai's fight with her turned in, like, it had to cover so much other stuff, like Sai versus, like, Laoji versus Chinjiao, then Sai avenging Chinjiao, defeating Laoji, mastering the big kick and everything. We didn't get enough time with her backstory, so it was just, like, very quick. So I imagine that this is one thing where if Oda had more time in chapter space, then he could have done a really strong backstory around this. But it's, it's like, it's not effective backstory, and I don't think it was a good gag in the first place. Okay. Continuing on. Stormy says, never laughed, but it didn't offend me. Yeah, I don't really know what okay, what do we put it? Like, is that what C tier is? I think, like, okay, I'd put this in C tier. I'd put this in D tier in that, like, while these I never really make me laugh, but I guess as you would say, don't really make me laugh, but didn't offend me. I think that's where C tier, that makes sense. I put this in D tier because it's just like, I just don't even think the joke is, I think it's a dumb joke to try and go for regularly. I don't know. Bartolomeo, this is an easy S for me. Bartolomeo's absurd fanboyism to the point, like, I like these. So here's my thing. So let me make it very, very clear what I particularly enjoy in One Piece gags, okay? I like any running gag where Oda is able to consistently get creative with it. I dislike, like, for me, the running gags kind of play out their course once Oda's just doing them almost on autopilot. Like, there's nothing new to be done with this gag. It's just like, and I feel like with a lot of the Straw Hat gags, so we're going to get to that shortly. I feel like with a lot of the Straw Hat gags, there's not really any innovative way that Oda is using, like, scenes or bits that Oda's thinking with a lot of them. It's just like, oh, we're at an island, Usopp's scared. Like, oh, there's something mentioned about money. Nami's like, oh, money, or whatever, right? I think even the Zoro Lost gag, I'm kind of just like, I don't remember Oda doing anything particularly funny or creative with it in some time. And I can give examples of what they used to be like in terms of iterations of something new and funny, okay? Like, if you're just autopilot, like Frankie saying super or saying he's a cyborg or talking like a cyborg, that's no longer funny, right? It's an autopilot joke that, if it's a joke that basically a fan could write on autopilot, like yo ho ho skull joke, I no longer find that funny, okay? Bartolomeo is a breath of fresh air for me, because the further and further we got to know Bartolomeo, Oda had newer and newer gags associated with this absurd character, to the point that, like, we're seeing him do all this fucking absurd ass shit, and then we get to his ship, and his fucking ship is like, the helm is a mock-up of fucking Straw Hat Luffy. We see Bartolomeo show up to a Yonko's territory. His gag got to the point that it basically started a world war. He got to a Yonko territory, saw a Yonko flag, and burned it down, because that's how obsessive he is. So that's what I really enjoy in terms of running gags, where, like, it's not even was the gag originally funny. It's like, is Oda always able to think of, like, a new bit or a new spin to make it hilarious? You know what I mean? And with Barto, like, the fact that just he fucking declared war on the red-haired empire for fucking Luffy. You get to his ship is a mock-up of Luffy. The Straws invite him to continue with them to Zoe or whatever, and he's like, no, I've gotten too much fanboy time with you guys. I need to pull back a little bit before I, like, overdose on this shit. Like, you know? And the fact that he took to the seas to find Luffy or whatever without having a navigator or jack shit, and they, like, call home to their grandma to like, give them weird old wives' tales advice, just because they're that obsessed with Luffy. I love that. I think he's consistently really funny. Big Mom's Hunger Pangs. Is this even a gag? I think this opens up a new tier, right? This opens up a new tier. Okay. This is... It's not even a... It's stuff that actively is to the detriment of the story, right? E is actively hurts the story, all right? Not hurts the story, but hurts one's enjoyment of the story. I understand that the Hunger Pangs move the plot forward, but, like, Sanji's nosebleed moved the plot of Fishman Island along, didn't make it any better. Boa's animal abuse. I don't know if it's E, but it's just... I just don't think it's... I literally don't think it's... I would put it in E almost. It doesn't actively hurt the story, so I'll leave it out, but it sucks. Buggy falling into success. If the... Shit, this might be SS. Let's see how the tier list shakes out. Because right now we don't have... Okay, I'll put this in A, just because that's differentiating a little bit. I feel like Buggy's on another level, you know? And Bartolomeo, I find really... Like, I find his gag really funny, but Buggy's is just on another level, you know? Chopper's hiding, I find pretty funny. This is a... For me, this is a B. It's not, like... It's not mind-blowing or anything like that, but it actually... Like, these don't make me laugh. Let me say this. Let me add some stipulation. Add... don't see why it's funny. Actively hurts enjoyment. Chopper's low bounty. Consistently funny. I think Chopper's low bounty. No, I'd say okay. I need a bit to define what this is. I think Chopper's low bounties, because I didn't find it funny post Wano. Post Wano, I don't really remember what the reaction was. I think maybe Oda needs to do something new with it. I think it falls in that category where it was funny the first time, because I'm remembering the Water 7 incident where he first got the bounty, but I don't think it's been funny. I don't think it's been any different the last few times it's happened. Crocus's misleading attitude, this doesn't count. Because if it did count, it would be easily up here or here. Very, very funny scene, but it's only one scene. So it's not a running gag in the story overall. You could argue it's a running gag in the sense that his character did it several times over the course of one scene. But I don't really count that as a running gag. Food stuck on Virgo's face. Don't make me laugh, but it's not bad. It's like fine. Frankie's empathy. I thought it was good early on. So Frankie's empathy. This actually goes back to a core issue with Frankie's character, which is the Flanderization of Frankie's character. Early on, Frankie was this more rough and tough, gruff. Like gruff gangster type character, right? Like he was a punk, he was a criminal, he was like the head of a gangster family and everything, right? So that's what made the first time that like we cut to him and Usopp, who Frankie fucking like he and his family fucking brutally beat up. It's like and it's even an ominous setup. It's like, oh, so that's Straw Hat. He's under the warehouse or he's at the warehouse or something. Let's go rough him up again or something. And then you cut to them talking and Frankie's like fucking bawling and everything like that. It's funny because it's this very overtly like macho, scary, almost, or like not scary, but initially Frankie's almost built up as the main villain of the Water 7 arc, right? That's why it's funny. Like you're keeping to the gangster like tough guy roots and everything, but then juxtaposing it with him having these big emotional reactions. It continues into, like, Thriller Bark. It's like, Luffy's like, Frankie, don't you understand, like, the romance of wearing a suit of armor? And then Frankie, like, has this emotional reaction and he starts playing the guitar. I think post-time skip, you almost don't fucking remember what pre-time skip Frankie was like, because now his main character trait is just being this super robot and talking about how he's a cyborg and talking about how the Sunny's awesome. And that's pretty much all of his dialogue lines on loop. So Frankie having big emotional reactions, they're no longer really funny to me anymore because it doesn't connect with why, like, the setup was usually that Frankie normally doesn't act like, he's normally the opposite of somebody that would have this sort of really big emotional reaction, and therefore when he has that emotional reaction, it's pretty funny. But now it's just like, he doesn't act like, he acts like a silly, goofy cyborg all the time, so him having a big emotional reaction, there's no real gag to it. It's just, okay, Frankie's a character that cries a lot. So, I'm going to put it in don't see why it's funny at this point. It's not, like, actively bad for the story, but it's never going to make me, it's not even never going to make me laugh, but I think it's all, I guess it's not bad. I'd still put it here. Don't make me laugh, but not bad. No, it's not even a gag really anymore, so I'd put it here. I don't think it's really a gag at this point. Captain Face, does anyone know when Morj watched the Mob Psycho 100 clip? It would have been at the end of a stream in the last, probably somewhere between 2 to 5 streams ago. Somewhere between 2 to 5 streams ago. JWP, thanks for the 5. Chopper's bounty gag has always been funny, but the more it happens, the less funny it is, and the more I just feel bad for him. Lol. I feel like Chopper will eventually. I personally feel like the final Straw Hat bounties that I think that there's gags associated with a lot of them, right? So like Sanji's never happy with his bounty for some reason or another. Frankie always feels like his bounty's too low. Chopper doesn't even get a real bounty. There's always, like, they have different little gags. I think Luffy and Zoro are never really unhappy, so Oda does them straight. They have different little gags. I forget, Nami, I think, also has some gag associated. I think she doesn't like getting new bounty increases. I feel like the final bounties that all the Straw Hats get will leave them satisfied, and that'll be the first time that happens. Frankie's hairstyle changes. It's just not even... I don't know. Maybe it's supposed to be funny, but it's just like a whatever. Frankie's perversion, I think... This was a funny gag that Frankie used to have, and now he doesn't really have it. Like, this was actually funny. And it's not like Sanji's perversion, where Sanji's actually perverted. Frankie's quote-unquote perversion is just that Frankie's basically a borderline nudist, and he offends other people just by the way he acts, and I find that funny. Like, Sanji referred to him as Panty Man for, like, all of Enies Lobby. I think that's funny. I think this was a good running gag. I think that this is almost... I think it's funny pretty much every time. I'd put it up here. Ronnie Bot says, yeah, add an overstayed tier. Cone Killer Confuser says, sounds like someone is breaking into Morj's home. No, food is just being made over there. It's okay. It's okay. Once the whatever phase it's in, which is something to do with it being mushed into a pan, turkey is mushed together, it'll be all good. It's all good. Overstayed, but I don't know if overstayed is like, it's a, like, is it a T or an overstayed gag that was once funny? Okay, don't see why it's funny, or an overstayed gag that was once funny. Gadatsu's, I think Gadatsu's is funny. I think Gadatsu's is funny. I think it's pretty funny. Kadatsu S bro forgot how to breathe. I'd put him here. I don't know if it... Yeah, it was really funny very consistently. It was very funny very consistently. He's trying to... He forgot how to breathe. He literally, like... I think he tried to attack Chopper and then took out one of his own subordinates. He couldn't remember how to cross his arms. It was funny because, like, every other priest, their trial had, like, a survival rate associated, and it would be like Shura 3% survival rate, Satori 10% survival rate, Ohm 0% survival rate, and then Gadatsu 50% survival rate. It's like, what the 50? That's like really fucking good. That's really okay. In fact, the fact that Chopper almost died in a 50% survival rate, meaning that, like, you could be a normal, average human being, show up to that trial, and you've got a 50-50 shot of surviving, that would have been damn embarrassing if Chopper died there. But he made it through, so it's all good. Gadatsu's walking comedy. Yeah, I think it's just because it's been so long since Skypiea that I put it over here, but he is funny every time. Gadatsu literally fell from Sky Island into the Blue Seas and then was put to labor. Okay. 1 second. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick, because we're almost there. Let's get the stream likes up to 100. Hancock's Love Sickness. I think that's... It doesn't really make me laugh. I don't think it's... I think it'll make me laugh occasionally. Like, Oda finds new ways to mix it up. So it makes me laugh occasionally. Like, oh, he said my name 3 times. We're married now, or something like that. I think I'd put it here. I don't think it's, like, hilarious, because you always pretty much know what the... Here's my take on One Piece gags, because Oda relies on running gags a lot. It's basically what I already said, right? If we already understand what the gag is, then it's only consistently funny if Oda's finding new ways to iterate it or bring it into the story, right? So with Hancock, I think we're still in the phase where there's still new jokes to be had from how her understanding of romantic relationships as it pertains to her relationship with Luffy. So I think there's still funny jokes to be had. And it's an endearing gag, too. It's like the one thing that makes the character likable. So I would put it here. I don't think it's funny every time, but put it there. Huh? Is this a running... I put it here. I don't know if it's... I guess it's about a running gag, because they did it one more time, so it kind of counts as a running gag. Don't make me laugh, but not bad. I think I put it there. This is funny. I think Queen's gag is actually funny, but it's not a running gag. I don't think... Does Queen say this often? Yeah, Torchlight17, like her mistaking him mouthing "thank you" as "I love you" and "nipple down." Yeah. There's variations to the gag. It's not like Sanji's where it's just like you know how he's gonna react every single time at this point, and it's just there's nothing fresh about it. Yeah, it only happened once. I think it's funny. It's not a running gag. I think, unless somebody can recall. I'm always negative, so I think that if we count that as Usopp, just Usopp's negativity and Usopp's lies and Usopp's negativity, right? So those are two separate things. It looks like are being set apart. So this is tricky, because Usopp always being negative. This moment is an all-time great moment, not just for Usopp, not just for One Piece comedy, but One Piece in general. This is an all-time great moment. However, Usopp constantly being negative is not consistently funny at this point in the story anymore. I think especially in Wano, it just got grating. It was just like he kept saying like, if I'm captured, I'll sell my friends out. I'm not gonna like. I'm so scared of this battle. Like, oh, if they torture me, I'd squeal and spill all the secrets in a second. Like every single line was just like, it's not funny. It's just him spewing negativity. I think so. It's tricky because this is like a moment. As a moment, this is a phenomenal moment. But I don't think Usopp constantly being negative is funny at this point in time anymore. I'd say it falls into or an overstayed gag that was once funny. And Crust, thanks for Pirate King tier member for 17 months. Morj Psycho 100, when are you going to start Elden Ring? Kagurabachi is some of the most clean and fluid action of any manga I've read, and the auction arc is maybe my favorite arc in any new gen manga right now. The turnaround on Kagurabachi is fucking awesome to see, just because it's like, if you guys remember, when Kagurabachi was early coming out, I was just like, I don't see why people are so down about it. I think I read a chapter on stream, unless I'm wrong, or maybe I read a chapter outside, and I was just like, it's a fine opening chapter. There's nothing crazy. I think people are just like, oh, it just looks really edgy and like serious and stuff. I'm like, okay, so like Bleach, which a lot of people still fucking like. Like, no one's fucking roasting Bleach for having like a main character that looks like a serious teenager with a sword or whatever. I mean, people do roast Bleach for that, but like nobody at the time was. It was part of the fucking big three. So I just thought that people were getting on its case for no real reason right off the bat. And it was like, if you read the opening chapter, I was like, no, it's not a phenomenal opening chapter, but most manga don't have phenomenal opening chapters. So I don't know. Akash Panda says, Queen complained when Green Bull made him thinner. So I guess that's a running gag then. Technically qualifies. It's just I don't know how to rate it, because it's funny. This is like a really funny line. Like, it's a funny concept, just straight up. Like, he's claiming that he stays big because he's worried that if he gets thinner, then he'd be too popular with the ladies. So he makes sure that worst case scenario doesn't happen. Like, it's funny. It's just it doesn't come up frequently. So I guess I'd put it not an actively hurts enjoyment, but I guess I'd put it here. Morj sold me Fent. Thanks for the 5. Imagine being God, creating humanity, and having billions of storylines running at the same time, then having the pressure of writing the ending. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Well, God doesn't give a fuck about the ending, so the whole universe just goes to shit at the end. It's the way that real life goes, you know? Number 1 worst gag is King of Hell Zoro. I will probably read Kagurabachi. I can put it into my stuff. Okay, I'll say I'll read Kagurabachi next. I'm down. I'm always down for, like, I'm going to be especially inclined for any series that is shorter, and so I can get through faster. And Kagurabachi is relatively new, right? Only a year out, maybe a bit more. Eric Cartman type shit, yeah. But Eric Cartman, I don't think admits that he's, he just says he's big boned. He says he's big boned. All right, Duval, I think Duval is up here. I'm not going to say it's funny every time, but Duval definitely ranks up here. The initial Duval gag was the best comedy moment in One Piece. Yeah, I'd say I put it around there. I think it almost ranks up here for me. It's just verging, because it's higher than these other ones. Maybe I need another tier. . It's not ranked within the tiers. I might put it here. I think it's almost funny every time. I think I'd put it there. Kingdom's like 800 chapters. Likino says, play Sekiro, Morj. I have played Sekiro. Sekiro was my first From Software game I ever played. You can actually type up Morj Sekiro and find a live stream of me playing Sekiro. I'll put Duval there. I'm not a Tanuki. I think that's funny. I think that's probably Chopper's funniest consistent gag for me. I don't know if I'd put it funny every time. I think I'd put it here. I think Chopper being mistaken for a Tanuki is funny. I think my favorite is also when other characters like other Straw Hats casually refer to Chopper as a Tanuki. Like, I think there was a scene, I might be wrong. I think there was a scene where like Zoro is giving demands, or like Luffy's giving demands. Can somebody remind me of the scene? Is this at Fishman Island? Zoro or someone is giving demands of like, we have other members of our crew, bring them here. And then he describes the rest of them in like such ridiculous ways. He's like, we have a raccoon dog, we have a skeleton. Chachi says, this is the problem with applying reasoning to your tiers instead of just lettering them. Part of it is just that I usually try to avoid that because I don't like tier lists that go by that. I do usually try and do S, A, B, C, D, E, etc. I think for this one I had to because just to remind myself, like an overstayed gag that was once funny, right? If you're reading the tier list just blank and you're like, wait, why does he have it so down low? It's like, well, maybe this was a funny gag once, but now it no longer is. Chopper being emergency food is even better, to be honest. Yeah, they cut that out over time. I think I prefer the Tanuki gag just because I think I prefer the Tanuki gag just because his crew will also often refer to him as a Tanuki when describing him to other people, which I think is really funny. It's like, we just don't even give a shit. All right, continuing on. Oh, here we go. This might be the worst, because this isn't even a gag, right? It's just so funny. It's just like, so funny, but not actually funny, right? It's like, is this supposed to be, what is it supposed to fucking be? Is it supposed to be a gag? Is it supposed to be a serious, deep aspect of her character? Is she supposed to be a joke? Is like what the fuck even is this? Why does she say it to Kaido so seriously when it's treated comically when she's introducing herself to like other characters like Momo and shit? And then like, why is it, like, what is it? Why is this a thing? Why does she never learn? If it's a joke, why does she never learn from it? And if it's not that serious, why does she act so seriously about it? And like, why does Oda try to make serious moments out of it? This might be the worst gag in the story. Because I don't even know if it counts as a gag, right? But Cavendish's Unpopular is very solid. I find this one funny. I find it fun. I find it to be a funnier version of I'm Handsome. Because Cavendish is an asshole character, he's genuinely not a good guy. He's kind of an asshole. He's probably the shittiest character out of Luffy's. I enjoy Cavendish quite a bit, but I'm saying like as a person, he's the shittiest character out of the Straw Grand Fleet. So, I think the fact that he is often tricked into doing good things because he views it as like him being considered popular, I find that to be really funny. I don't think it's funniest shit ever tier, but I think it's really funny. Beppo, yeah, I think Beppo's cute. Makes me laugh or smile occasionally. Yeah. Ivan Cubs just kidding is funny. I find this funny enough that I would put it here. I think Ivankov really got to shine in Impel Down. I think Ivankov works well when like Ivankov's comedy bits are the center of attention, right? So Ivankov really got to shine in Impel Down, like literally center stage, New Kama Kingdom and everything like that, and like all the crazy zany wackiness that was associated with that, and it was just like literally in the middle of Impel Down, like absolute hell. There's this random bizarro world where like run by this crazy crazy person who's turned it into like a paradise for like LGBTQ basically. It's just like like putting on the most elaborate shows and the most elaborate gags and everything, and like being generally obnoxious but endearing at the same time. I think Ivankov really works best when the character is center stage. I think once you like make Ivankov a side character alongside other revolutionaries or whatever, then it's not quite as funny. Because I think I really think that I think Oda's comedy in general works best when he has time to set up scenes, like the opening scene of New Kama Kingdom, like with Ivankov being revealed as like who, like the whole personality reveal, and then the person coming in trying to get revenge for their father or whatever, and then Ivankov pretending that they've been defeated or whatever, but not actually. Like I think that there's so much, like when Oda can really work with just a comedic bit, he can do phenomenal comedy scenes. I think that goes down. It's less and less frequent in post-time skip One Piece. That's why I appreciated the first chapter of Elbaf with the cat and everything like that. I thought that was another good bit. I think it's gonna be harder for Ivankov to get really solid bits in the future, but I'm just gonna keep it there. Kaido's drunkenness, it's I put it here. Doesn't make me laugh, but it's not bad. Like I don't think I've laughed at it really. Maybe I laughed at it a couple times even during Luffy and Kaido's battle. I don't think I ever actually laughed. It also felt tonally weird, but at the time I didn't care because I was like, oh, well, it's tonally so light because it's setting up for something serious, like Luffy losing and the raid failing or something like that. But turns out it was just setting up for more humor with Gear 5th. So it was tonally light because the whole battle was supposed to be the lightest, most silly shit ever. Kanjo's terrible drawings, I think it falls under didn't make me laugh, but it wasn't bad. Like it was solid. Like it's a funny little character quirk. For a long time, Kanjo didn't really have a character, and I mean, the least developed Scabbard because of the betrayal aspect. But Kanjo didn't really have a character, so it's kind of like, well, this is his distinguishing thing, his ability and the fact that he makes terrible drawings. Drunken flirting was funny. That's true. That did make me laugh. I'm gonna bump Kaido's drunkenness up. That straight up made me laugh. That was funny in the middle of that moment. Kinemon's cluelessness, I don't think is a running gag, because I think people are just referring to this one big moment, right? I don't think in general Kinemon's viewed as this dumbass character that's always like flying by the seat of his pants. I think this moment was just a culmination of who Kinemon was and what his role was, which is Kinemon. I've talked about this on stream before. Kinemon's whole thing is that he's not good at anything. Like he is the most average character at the end of the day. His main thing is just that he's a loyal guy, and that's what makes Kinemon so cool as the driving force of this gigantic revolution. He's not special. He's not a brilliant strategist. He's not like the smartest guy. He's not that cunning, right? So intelligence is out. He's a solid fighter, but he's not that strong. Like, you know, if he runs into somebody like Law, he's immediately just cut up without probably too much trouble or whatever. Like he's like Doflamingo shows up, can immediately fuck up Kinemon. Like he's not strong. He's not the strongest of the Scabbards as far as we can tell. He's just a guy. Like he's just a dude who has to deal with like a really good big responsibility. He's not even that good of like a parent figure to Momo. He fucking loses Momo all the fucking time. Like Momo's fucking lost. And Kinemon has lost Momo like 80% of the story, right? He's not that capable at anything, but he ultimately, just through perseverance, he got everybody to get together, and you know, that's why I like the cluelessness moment, because it's just a culmination of everything. Like everything totally came together in the end, but it's not because of any brilliant move by Kinemon. It just worked out. Like God was looking out for this dude at the end of the day. Akash Penance chapter happened again in chapter 1056 when all the Scabbards except Kinemon knew who Hitetsu was. Let's read this. So does that make it a running gag? Let's read what the example was. Hold on. So let's see if we can add Kinemon to the list. I don't think that's quite the same thing. I don't think that's quite the same thing. Because the gag in the other one was like, everyone's like, Kinemon essentially, it's almost like a Buggy-esque gag where like, Kinemon's getting a bunch of credit even though he didn't actually plan anything, right? This feels like a gag that it's just like, it's again him not knowing something, but I don't think it's like the same type of joke necessarily. Like, this is just him not having recognized something, which I feel like is, I don't know. Like, not having recognized something is not quite the same as, like, having a whole plan come together and everyone giving, like, that's different. Because the gag I'm thinking of here is more like, it's more similar to Buggy's gag. I don't think it's become a defining character trait of Kinemon's that he isn't aware of certain things, you know? I'm gonna leave it here. It does technically happen twice. I think Queens is like Queens also happens twice, which is the bare minimum to count as a running gag, but it's clearly the same joke. This feels like a different joke. It's just similar in the sense that like it's related to Kinemon being mistaken about something, but the gag is different in terms of like what the actual joke is. Kuzan's forgetfulness. Kuzan's forgetfulness. Is this only in his introduction? No, it's not only his introduction. It happens again in the smoker scene. Yeah, I think that's a solid gag. I think that's a solid gag. It doesn't really make me laugh, but it's not. No, it does actually make me laugh a little bit. It's kind of funny. Joyous Boyus, thanks for the 2. Where do you rank Mihawk painting his blade black? As a community gag, it goes in S tier. In terms of actual One Piece, it's not a thing, obviously. Mihawk earned that blade. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick. Laoji's senility. It doesn't make me laugh, but it's not bad. Lola's search for love. I think it makes me laugh or smile occasionally. Luffy, Law, and Kid's petty rivalry. I view this rivalry as half-assed because, like, it feels very... The problem I have with this rivalry is that it feels a little bit forced because... no, it feels very forced because Luffy and Law Luffy and Law never acted like this with each other. They never acted like this with each other. Right? Like, when it was just Luffy and Law, it wasn't this dynamic. Like, they were, like... Luffy and Law was pretty straightforward, like, alliance with, like, the gag actually being that Law would try and make plans and Luffy would kind of just, like, do whatever he wanted and run the show anyway. Luffy never showed any sense of rivalry with Law. Then Luffy and Kid met, and Luffy and Kid had a pretty clear rivalry with one another from Jump in Udon, right? When I say met, I mean reunited in the New World, right? Luffy, Law, and Kid, they do... Okay, so the rivalry between Luffy and Law takes place... Like, okay, so it's only when all three are together, because at Sabaody they did have a bit of a rivalry in terms of who could take care of the Marines and everything, but Luffy and Law never act like this. That's why I find it a little bit forced, because I'm just like, are you trying to, like... Kid and Luffy just feels like a ridiculous rivalry, because Kid and Luffy, there's such a huge gap in strength. Law, at least, like, strength and accomplishments. Law, there's a similar gap in strength, but at least Law's, like, very smart and capable, and he's gotten a lot of shit done, and he's largely like, their success against Doflamingo, it was a good chunk of it was Law. Like, you could argue Law had about 50%, 50% credit fairly for the defeat of Doflamingo when you include planning and scheming and everything and the damage he did, right? With, even with the Onigashima raid, like, even though Luffy and the Strats were ultimately responsible for the bulk majority of it, you could give Law credit for being the one to initially kick off this plan and helping mastermind a lot and getting a lot done, right? The Luffy, like, if you were to say Law is a legitimate rival to Luffy, that kind of makes sense just because Law's strengths lie in Luffy's weaknesses. So even if Law's not straight up as good of a combatant as Luffy, he has strengths in areas that Luffy doesn't, and he has ultimately been a huge factor in a lot of the accomplishments that the alliances have done, both in Dressrosa and Wano, right? In terms of just making everything come together and happen in ways that Luffy couldn't do. Kid fills the same niche as Luffy in terms of he's just dumb and a strong fighter in a sense, but he's also really, really weak compared to Luffy. So there's no real sense of rivalry there. Like, Kid's only about as strong as Law, but then Kid lacks everything else that Law also has and all the other ways that Law contributes. So the long-winded way of saying this is basically like, I find this a silly rivalry because it's just like, Luffy and Law, you could argue that a rivalry kind of makes sense, but they don't actually naturally have a rivalry. They never act like this when it's just the two of them. Like all of Punk Hazard and Dressrosa, and so they don't have this dynamic. Or Wano when they see each other in Wano. Like, they don't have this dynamic. It's a forced dynamic that only comes about when Kid's thrown in the equation too, which just doesn't make sense to me. Then Luffy and Kid, they do consistently have their petty rivalry, but it's a joke of a rival. It's just like the most forced rivalry possible because it's like, it's almost like Oda doesn't actually want to have somebody else kind of close to Luffy because he loves Luffy too much, so he makes Kid kind of a joke in comparison. So then the three of them having a petty rivalry, I don't know. I'm maybe hashing it too much, but like, I'd find it actually funny if like there was like if the rivalry concept itself didn't feel so forced. You know what I mean? Like Zoro and Sanji having a rivalry, it doesn't feel forced because at the end of the day, like you can debate to the whatever to however long, like how strong, how big or little the gap between Zoro and Sanji is, but that's kind of the point. Like, it's a debate how big the gap is, right? With Luffy, Kid, and Law, we all know that it's like it's not a real rivalry. Nobody fucking thinks either of these two characters are close to Luffy. Like, there's a solid argument considering Luffy versus Saturn and Kizaru that Luffy could solo these two without too much difficulty, right? So I view the rivalry as very forced. Like, Zoro and Sanji's rivalry is funny because it's like, it's such an effective dynamic that it bleeds over into fandoms as well. Like, our fandom, like, the silliest part of the One Piece fandom is probably how much Zoro and Sanji debates readers have, you know? That's effective to me. To me, this is just like a gag that could have been funny if Oda actually tried to put some weight into it. So, I don't know. I don't think it's bad. Like, long-winded way of saying I don't think it's bad. I just think it's never going to make me laugh because it's just like, it feels forced to even... It's like almost bringing Luffy down to a level that doesn't really make sense for him. Because Luffy's not normally like super... It's not like he normally has like a fragile ego where he gets competitive with other characters that are talking shit. You know, that's not normally the case with Luffy. But Oda arbitrarily says that's the case when it comes to... Like, he doesn't act that way with Law. But Oda arbitrarily says that, okay, when Luffy's around Kid or Luffy's around Kid and Law, that's how Luffy acts. Which feels almost out of character to me. And it doesn't even make sense because it's like, what is there about Kid that makes Luffy act like this? Because Kid's a fucking joke compared to Luffy. Like, even villains don't get Luffy, like insecure and stuff the way that that he acts around, like, in this rivalry. It just feels forced. That's all I can say. Yeah, calling it a rivalry is a gag in itself. I don't know. It's not bad. I kind of want to put it here. I just feel like Gags should feel true to the character. And I feel like if Oda were to try and make like a sort of gag of Luffy feeling like insecure, needing to prove himself around one specific character, like, it feels right when it's like Blackbeard. Like, when Luffy and Blackbeard are sitting in the bar. Like, that's a cool little scene because it's like, Luffy, like, characters don't normally just get under Luffy's skin like that easily. Like, it's very hard for that to happen, for Luffy to get, like, all riled up and competitive. But there's something about this dude in particular that, like, ticks Luffy off, and it's like, oh, it makes sense. Like, this is Luffy's actual, like, natural counterpart. With Luffy and Kid, it's just like, if Oda's gonna write that dynamic like that, then, like, actually give some fucking weight to, like, make it feel like something that actually should matter to Luffy. Like, otherwise, like, why should Luffy look at Kid any way different than he looks at, like, fucking, like, Basil Hawkins at the start of the arc? There's Kid is legitimately closer to Basil Hawkins in combat ability than he is to Luffy. Anyway, long story short, Luffy's love of meat oldie but goldie. It is almost an exception to like the thing that I've said multiple times, which is just like, well, it should always be new. How not always be new, but like if it's a gag that's just very overdone, then like if Oda can find new creative ways to do it, that feels good. I don't think Oda's almost ever done anything really particularly new with Luffy's love of... No, he does. Like, even just this panel, Luffy's eyes turned into meat. That's something that started coming around later in the story. There's just something about this one that's never gonna not be funny. I think because Oda's so unpredictable with Luffy's character as well, that there's times that he can just find little ways to have Luffy's love of meat like come in and break in through the story, like when Luffy's giving his explanation of what a hero is, right? He's like, I'm a pirate, not a hero. Here's how a hero would act, but here's how I would act. And it's just like almost everything he can put through the lens of meat, and so you're constantly surprised by how he puts things into that lens. I think it's I wouldn't say funny every time, but like let's say funny consistently. Consistently funny. All right, here we go. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick. Luffy's nicknames. Oh. I think this goes here. I think it's been a minute since we've got another S tier one, but I think this goes here. I think Luffy's pretty consistently able to surprise me with the nicknames that he comes up with. And lots of times I'll think that he'll have a certain nickname for a character, and then it ends up being something totally different. Luffy didn't have a nickname for Kaido or Big Mom. That's interesting, right? I guess when it comes to characters that Luffy really, really respects, he doesn't really do it. He calls Tra guy. He was telling Trafalgar Law's crew about Tra guy. They're like, who the fuck is that? Yeah, I think Luffy pretty consistently, I just like the nicknames. Okay, Hammock. Like, these are all funny. Where are you going, Helmet? Hey, Balloon. Yeah, Branch. It's just like, some of them just make almost no sense either. Lulu's protruding hair. I think this might be very controversial. I found this to be one of the funniest... Yeah, this might be a me thing. I found this to be one of the funniest running gags in the story. Because the hair, it just fucking... This was one of those reality-breaking ones. Because if I recall, if I recall, sometimes he would push his hair and it would pop up somewhere that wasn't even on his body. Right? Mano21 says bogey. Yeah. Yeah. Robin reminds Luffy of Marco by saying he's the pineapple guy. Am I correct? Like, sometimes he would push his hair down and it would pop up somewhere that didn't even make sense? Akash Panda, thanks for the 2. Luffy thinking Dofi was offering him meat is peak. Yeah, it's just... and that's all it took for Doflamingo to essentially control his pace of the conversation. Cloud Waffle says, what the fuck, is that one of the shipwrights? Yeah, I find this fucking funny. Does nobody agree with me about the hair thing? I remember this being a very memorable little part. It's funny. It's not the funniest shit ever. All right. I'm still gonna keep it here. This is a me thing. Yeah, it would pop up at other people's bodies. Thank you, Akash Panda. I just thought it was really funny because it was one of those that like it's one of the rare One Piece gags where Oda breaks like actual like the story, like it's almost like a little fourth wall break. It's not a fourth wall break, but it's like a gag that shouldn't even be physically possible in the One Piece verse, you know? Like, so it's almost like cartoon rules apply to his hair, like Looney Tunes rules. It's almost like, I'll say maybe that's why I thought his hair was so funny, because it was like the tiniest taste of Gear 5th. Of Gear 5th physics, like Gear 5th gag type stuff, where it's like a little bit cartoonish reality bending way earlier in the story. Does that make sense? Maybe that's why it stuck out to me. I think this one is consistently funny. I don't know if it's funny shit ever. I'd put it in consistently funny. Because there's different gags that Oda can sometimes do with it. Like, sometimes, like, when Brook asks a question, he'll actually get, like, a fair response. Sometimes when, like, I don't know. I think, like, sometimes it was, like, he did it once to, like, surprise Big Mom. You know, I think Oda manages to do it. I think he's found funny ways to keep incorporating it. Kosh Panda says he used it as an attack. I'm trying to remember. Was it against the Giants? Momonosuke's perversion. Doesn't make me laugh, but not bad. It's just like standard. It does. This one actually makes me laugh or smile occasionally. It actually does make me laugh or smile occasionally. I think when it first happened, I think I'd put it actually here. It does make me laugh or smile occasionally. I'd put it about there. Nami's love for money. This one, unfortunately, it's one that I think it falls into the category again for me of like having once been really good, but not anymore. Like I can't think of another fun like Oda used to have good ways of doing this. Like one of my favorite bits is like I think this is a great bit, okay? Which is Robin saying let me stay on the ship or whatever, and everyone freaking out. Everyone's hardcore against it. Usopp's giving interviews, etc. Nami, this is a phenomenal little gag. Like Nami giving this very, very cold, scathing. As cold and scathing are not actually. That's a bit of an oxymoron, isn't it? This very cold, blunt breakdown of like how she sees through all of this, how she's too savvy and smart of a character to be fooled by this. She's not a silly little kid like Luffy and Chopper, etc. Like there's actual intelligence and a discerning eye behind the way Nami looks at things, right? She's not gonna fall for this. She knows that Robin's an enemy. And then it's like, look, I bought oh, by the way, I brought some crocodile juice with me. Oh, I love you so much, sister. It's like, oh, okay, that's like all it took for Nami, the grounded, realistic one to cave, was literally just that. Like, that's a funny bit. Like, this is a funny bit. It helps that Oda crafted this whole... Oda just doesn't have time to do this stuff as much anymore, which is like, this whole chapter is a series of gags, mostly. Like, it's a whole comedy, extended comedy bit of how one by one the crew just falls for her. Like, and each of it plays to the crew's, like, individual... it plays to each of the crew's individual gags, in a sense. Like, Luffy, Usopp, Chopper being little kids. Usopp, even though he's like cowardly and very suspicious, he's ultimately a little kid at heart. Sanji's romantic gag. Nami's gag for money. Like, just good shit in general. Even with Zoro, like him just being kind of a stuffy, like very closed off character. Even he kind of like, it's not a gag, but like, I guess his gag could be like him getting frustrated with the rest of them or something. I don't know. Like, Nami's gag is funny in bits like what about, if I recall correctly, after they land, I feel like after they land, yeah, they land from Skypiea. Now we'll officially start distributing the loots. Blah, blah, blah. First things first, my share is 80% of these. Hold on a second. Like, I find stuff like this funny. Like, it's playing into the plot of what's happening in the arc. It's not just throwaway lines about her liking money or whatever. Like, I find this to be a funny gag. Or, I'm not going to go through each one, but there's lots of iterations of this sort of thing. Like, the scene where they're negotiating for money in Water 7. Like, they're selling the gold and they're negotiating for money. And then you see how scary Nami can be when she's like actually locked in to making sure that she gets her money's worth. I actually like that scene. Let me see if I can find it. I would pull that shit up. Yeah. Every penny of these are the best gold you could find. Blah blah blah. I'll go ahead and prepare the cash. 100 million, Barry. You're gonna give us that much money? Slabs her foot down. 3 things to tell you. Number 1. Number 2, I don't think your offer is good enough. Number 3, if you like it, we'll cut your head off here. And then, like, I'm rich. No, we are rich. I just find, like, this stuff is, I find these creative uses for gags. I don't remember there being a particularly funny scene with her gag in some time. Like, is there anything, and Nami says back when the pacing was immaculate? Yeah. Again, we got a little bit of this towards the beginning of Elbaf. I think we're getting a bit of this towards the beginning of Elbaf. I'm enjoying that. The amount of characters is ultimately what holds this sort of thing back. And Oda's need to cut around through a lot of scenes. So, you know, that's why when the best pacing we got in some time was when Oda cut back down to like 5 East Blue characters plus Chopper then at the beginning part of Elbaf. It's just the story for that wasn't the most exciting, but it was good for comedy and interactions. Akash Panda says, Nami saying she needs to negotiate with Scabbards before they form the alliance was the best. I don't remember this scene. I literally don't remember this scene. Sneed's feed in seed says, really, when she got her bounty, she considered turning herself in. Recently, when she got her... I forgot about that. That's funny. That's funny. That's a funny bit. That's a creative, new little bit. Let me see. That would have been chapter like 1059, maybe? Maybe 1060? I'm trying to evaluate where to put this one. Because just because I don't remember recent things doesn't mean that they're not happening. Shit, what chapter do we get the new bounties? Is it 1061? No, I guess it must be earlier. Maybe I missed it. They get the bounties on the ship, right? Unless I'm crazy. What chapter did they get the new bounties? Is it not on the ship? Did I miss it? Zoe chapter 819? Okay, let me check that out in a second. Oh, here, I missed it. 9 digits, can I collect? Okay, come on. Okay, technically it did. He's like, okay, technically it did. Okay, let's see the chapter 819. I agree. This is funny. I forgot about this. Actually, Luffy has a point. We need to negotiate this. I agree. This is funny. Okay. I'm going to be more lenient with Nami's running gag. I'm going to be more lenient with this. This, I'm going to put in... I don't think it's consistently funny. I'd say makes me laugh or smile occasionally at this point. So I think it's good sometimes. I don't think this is really a gag. Does this even count as a gag? I'll put it here. There's no offense to Odin's character. He's a good character. Just don't think it's a gag. Panda Man. Consistently funny. It's not funny as shit ever, but it's fucking Panda Man. You know, where else are you going to put him? Thanks, Akash Panda. Thank you. Loud Waffle says, we just don't see most of their new pictures, which I was sad about. Yeah, it's just space. Oda's just tight for space nowadays. Just tight for space. Pika's voice, I don't think... The problem with Pika's voice is that this is a manga. It's a manga. You read it. So, like, being told that he has a really high-pitched voice isn't really fun. It's basically telling you that something is supposed to be funny, which doesn't really work. And the anime for Dressrosa is, unfortunately, probably the worst One Piece anime arc ever. So I can't imagine anybody that fucking sat through enough of Dressrosa to get to Pika's voice. So it's just, yeah, I think it just stays here. Robin's morbid comments, to me, it doesn't really make me laugh personally, but it's not bad. I know some people really like it, but it's something that started coming up. I think part of the reason I don't click with it as much is just because Robin was one of my top 3 favorite strats for a good chunk of the story, and then as time went on, more and more, I felt like she was sidelined more and more in the story with very small offhand comments that she would make. And at a certain point, it did feel like sometimes if we're getting some dialogue from Robin, it's just a silly little morbid comment or something. It's just some basic exposition, or like Oda doing a little gag with her making a morbid comment. And I just generally wanted more. So if we were getting other stuff with the character, and then also we've got this little joke about the morbid comments or something going, I would probably have enjoyed that. But for me, this almost became like Oda's filler dialogue for her, in a sense. Same with this, the Robin's Whimsical Imagination. It kind of almost felt like she's now just this side character that exists, and like if Oda's cutting to her, it's just to do a little, like one of his new little gags that he's thought of for her, which I don't know. I think I prefer it when they're actually like they feel like a fully fleshed out character that happen to have these sort of gags, rather than like, okay, they became a cardboard cutout that once in a while Oda does like a throwaway little joke. So that's my thing. Zayd says Morj watched the Pika voice compilation. I'll just say this is mostly basing it off of the manga. I just don't know if, yeah. This actively hurts enjoyment of the story, I think particularly in Fishman Island. I don't think there's much to say about this. Maybe there's some crazy people out there who actually think this gag is very funny. I guess Oda does. I don't know. I think that I would genuinely say that this is the first gag, I would say, in the story that actively, in my opinion, hurts the character from, at least compared to what they once were. Shinobu's mature appeal, I think it doesn't make me laugh, but it's not bad. I think it's funny in itself. Skeleton puns makes me laugh or smile occasionally. It's just, these are the equivalent of like dad jokes, right? So they're supposed to be so bad. Like, I don't need Oda to get creative with this one, because the idea is that they're so bad that they're kind of funny. Like, they're just shitty puns. So there's nothing, like, it's a running gag that will never get old, really, because it's old from the moment that it starts. You know, like, from day one, it's not funny, and that's what's funny about it, right? They're just the dad jokes of One Piece. Gosh Panda says, Morj, I would highly recommend watching Hibbo 3HD's reaction to Pika voice on your own time. It's hilarious. Okay, maybe it's really good in the anime. I really don't remember what it's like in the anime. It's a funny concept, like this big buff dude having a really high-pitched voice. It's just that it's a manga where you can't hear the voice, so we're just being told that, trust me, he's got a really, really funny voice. Trust me, this is a really funny scene, what's happening right now. All Oda can really do is just change the font, which is not really the same. Sugar's Trauma, I think that's really good. I think it's consistently funny. I don't know if it falls into the funniest shit ever, because this is stuff that, like, it's over the course of the story, it's consistently hitting beat after beat, but this is a phenomenal repeat Usopp gag. Like, it was funny the first time, but then when Usopp does it again to essentially save Luffy and Law in, like, one of the most pivotal moments, like, in my opinion, my favorite moment in Dressrosa is Usopp's sniping scene. I think that's just the best single character moment for any Straw Hat in Dressrosa. And Usopp's best single character moment in post-time skip period, and one of the best single chapters in One Piece post-time skip, and one of the best written Straw Hat chapters in post-time skip period. And for it to all end with like a really funny gag that's at the same time a dramatic moment that doesn't take away from the drama of the moment is perfect. Super definitely falls in here. It just became like, I love Frankie's Super. When I first was watching Water 7 Enies Lobby, it was 6th grade, and like I would literally go around doing the pose. I went on a vacation with my family to Spain, and I just thought it was really funny to do this pose randomly, and my family wouldn't know what I was doing. So look, I love Frankie's gag as much as the next person for like a long time. But not like it kind of falls in the same category as Robin, in the sense that like when the character becomes extremely two-dimensional, or one-dimensional, sorry, they're technically two-dimensional. When the character becomes very one-dimensional, and it's just like, I no longer feel like Frankie's a real character anymore. I feel like half his lines are just like Oda having him say super, or something about him being a robot, or something about how the Sunny's really great. Then I'm just kind of sick of him saying super, because I'm like, dude, just say something. Like, please say how you're feeling. Like, I get you're feeling super about this, but what if sometimes you're not feeling super? And what if in those times when you're not feeling super, it's not just bawling tears? Like, what if you're actually just a real character that's going, like, having like normal emotional journeys or whatever? Like, everything doesn't have to just be like bawling over everything or saying it's super. So that's where that kind of falls for me. Again, like, when the character still feels like a character, that's when Oda like throwing in their gags still feels funny to me. When it just feels like the gag is the throwaway bits of dialogue or like lines that he's got for them, then I don't really care for the gags. I just feel like almost the character's been reduced to gags. Kind Best says, I'm feeling super this week is a bar. Yeah. That compliment doesn't make me happy, you jerk. I found this funny for a while. I don't think it makes me laugh anymore. No, I think it still makes me laugh or smile occasionally. I think it's funny. That's a personal thing. There's the G. I don't even know what to say. I think it's not bad. I think it's actually just so dumb. It's like moderately funny. It might not make me laugh necessarily, but thinking about it is whatever. Sundre pudding. I don't think that one's particularly funny. Where did it fall? Yeah, Sundre pudding. Maybe do you guys find Sundre pudding funny? LMAO, Jedu pieces LMAO. That's such a funny way to put it. I guess. Drexel Rodriguez says, don't agree with the Frankie take, but respect it. Yeah, I think it more so comes down to where's the character at this point. I also think that, like, for me personally, again, Frankie's zaniness was once, because he was a fresh character, he was a new character, Frankie's zaniness really stood out. But now if he's just saying the same zany catchphrase on repeat, it's also a hard gag to improve upon, because it's like, you can't really have variations of it. It's the same line and the same pose, and that's the joke. So, just is what it is. I thought that one really funny instance of it is this. This is maybe where the last time that I actually found it funny. It was early in Punk Hazard. Maybe it's here. Feels like it's a couple chapters away. Okay. So, I think it's this chapter. Yeah, this is it. To me, this is the peak super moment in the story. Outside of like early on when Frankie started doing it, okay? This is one of the funniest bits in One Piece, in my opinion. And it's post time skip, so I like that Oda took the time, at least in this chapter, to write out this gag, okay, and set this whole thing up. So Smoker, he's interrogating Law, right? He's got Law, dead to rights. He's like, you're up to something on this island, and it's related to the Straw Hats, and the Straw Hats are definitely here, and you're hiding him, right? That's what he's accusing Law of here, right? He's saying that you, Trafalgar Law, are hiding Straw Hat Luffy. He's here on this island, and you're a Shichibukai, therefore I don't trust you. Just fess up, right? And Law, he's a serious dude. And the truth is that the Straw Hats are not here, right? To his knowledge, he's like, the truth is the Straw Hats aren't here. You got nothing on me, Smoker, right? There's nobody here. This is just I'm doing up my own business. Don't worry about it, man. Just fuck off, because there's no Straw Hats here. And Law knows that there's no Straw Hat, right? So Smoker's actually mistaken in his assumptions here. And so they're having this very tense conversation. Don't make this difficult, Law. Let me see what's inside. It's not a lab anymore. It's a villa. I refuse, and I'm innocent. There's no fucking Straw Hat pirates here. How many times do I have to tell you? There's no fucking Straw Hat pirates here at all. And then, who busts open this fucking door? A Straw Hat pirate, and then another Straw Hat pirate, and then a whole shit ton of missing kids that the Marines have also been looking for. And then a bunch of singing Straw Hat pirates singing about how they're the Straw Hat pirates. He's Kanen, he's awesome. He's Frankie the Tank. And then they all these Straw Hat Pirates that Law just told Smoker are not on this island come out doing this dance, and it's all swept up in the spur of the moment. They all hit this pose, yell super, like it's one giant choreographed montage, and then they're like, wait, what the fuck? It's too cold out here. We're just going to head back inside. And then they leave. And then Smoker's like, I knew you were lying. And Law's like, I don't know what the fuck just happened. So Smoker and Law, I think people fucking forget, but Smoker and Law, their cool epic battle that happened, it essentially happens because of the fucking Straw Hats showing up for no reason. They weren't really gonna fight before this. I mean, it might have still led to conflict, but this is what essentially took like a very tense boiling over situation and like fucking set the whole room on fire. And the funniest part is that the Straw Hats didn't even know they didn't read the room at all. They didn't know what they were walking into. They didn't give a shit about it. They're like, what the fuck? Smoker and that other guy from Sabaody, we don't want to be messing with any of this shit. We're just going to leave and go back inside. And then they're just like, it just fucking explodes into all this action. Anyway, that was the funniest super moment in recent memory. If Oda can write more bits like that, and that's spearheaded by Frankie. This is Frankie's brand of comedy, right? Frankie's the one that sweeps them all up because they're so excited about Frankie the Tank. He's the one that gets them all hit the super pose. Even Sanji and them, Sanji, etc. Frankie in general is the one that can kind of get the crew to do these ridiculous things, like the docking, for example. Like I think that's Frankie's best gag. I personally think that's Frankie's best gag, in that he's able to sweep everybody else up into his absurd his absurdity at certain points, and people kind of lose their sense of dignity in the moment. I think that's Frankie's best low-key running gag, if you can call it a running gag. All right. Anyway, continuing on though, I'm gonna keep Frankie super here, just because it's an overstayed gag that was once funny. That's basically it. Usopp's lies. I think Usopp's lies, it depends. It's hit or miss, because sometimes Usopp will just be randomly lying, he'll be bullshitting, and it's kind of like, all right, whatever. And then other times they're like plot-relevant lies, like, for example, the whole Usoland thing. And then it starts getting interesting, right? So I'd put it in makes me laugh or smile occasionally. Usopp's made-up diseases. It was once funny, but at a certain point, this falls in the category of, like, a literal fan could just write it on autopilot. You could have, a fan could just, like, you could give any random One Piece fan, and, like, as soon as they hit a new island, be like, hey, write a line of dialogue for Usopp here, and they would know what to write. If they're at fucking Punk Hazard, you just write, like, I've got can't go on fire or ice islands disease or some shit like that. Like, it's basically that. Like, it's very literally just a Mad Libs gag, where it's like you take what they're about to do and then insert that into Usopp's I can't because I have insert blank disease, right? So I think it's there. You're not my type. I don't know if this even falls into a running gag category, right? Isn't it just for Vanderdecken? There's also the Minister of the East, or of the right or left or something, that also loves Shiroshi, which is very weird because Shiroshi has only just turned 16 and he's been part of, like, guarding or like a minister for the royal family for, like, all of her childhood, right? There is a minister that is like, does she say that to him? Otherwise, this isn't really a running gag, right? Zoro's lack of direction. She does it at the Reverie. You're right. She does it at the Reverie. It's not funny. It's just it's not really a gag. I mean, it's a gag in that it happens twice with Shirahoshi, but it's barely it's not even, it's never funny, right? Like, it's kind of just like, she's just saying that you're not my type. She said that to some princes during the Reverie. Thanks, Akash Panda. All right, Zoro's lack of direction. So this is a very difficult one because this is a gag that I think was very funny for a bit. And it's interestingly with Zoro's lost sense of direction gag, it's one that seems to have developed as the story went on, and I don't know if that was part of Oda's initial concept for the character. A lot of people say that, well, Zoro, he was always a lost wandering swordsman. And in one of his first conversations with Luffy, like, when they're first setting off from, like, in the little rowboat by themselves, like, Luffy makes fun of how Zoro's also lost. And so that's the first time it's referenced. But it's also, like, a little bit more clear at that point in time that, like, Luffy is the dumb one who is even more lost, if that makes sense. Like, it's made clear that neither of them are good at direction, but it doesn't seem like Oda's setting it up as, like, that's really Zoro's thing. Because interestingly, then, shortly after at, like, Syrup Village, Luffy and Zoro, they both struggle to get to the correct slope, right? And with this, Luffy goes to the wrong slope because he doesn't know what the right direction is. I think they say, like, the slope is, like, north or west or something like that, and then Luffy heads off running, and he gets lost because he doesn't know what the direction is. Zoro only gets delayed because he gets stuck down the slippery slope, right? Literally a slippery slope. So he gets stuck down a slippery slope. So, like, if it was modern day One Piece, I think the situations would have been reversed. Oda would have found some other reason for Luffy to have been delayed, and for Zoro, he would have just had Zoro run off without knowing the right direction. So it's just a couple early scenes from East Blue that kind of imply that, like, while both Luffy and Zoro aren't the sharpest tools, it's like Oda's just like, Luffy's really, really dumb. Like, he's way dumber than Zoro, so, like, a funny gag for Luffy is that, he was lost, didn't know how to navigate at sea at all. Oh, Luffy was late to the fight against the Black Cat Pirates because Luffy went the wrong direction or whatever. It became a little bit later in the story that Oda was like, wait, this is a funny gag that I can regularly do for Zoro, specifically. I forget what the first point I can definitely think of that it happened was. I feel like it may have been in the finale of Alabasta when, like, Zoro ends up inside the clock tower. Like, he's actually several levels up the clock tower for no real reason, just because he got lost. And then it progresses, like, there's new versions of it, like Enies Lobby, he got so lost that, like, he's told to go upstairs, and then he literally, like, takes the wrong turn, like, even though it's just, like, literally just take a turn, go up the stairs or whatever. He only gets to the rooftop at Enies Lobby because he, like, destroys everything in his path. Like, he literally causes, like, the ceiling to collapse, and he gets there. Does he get there first? I think he might get there first. I might be wrong, and I think that was part of the gag, aside from Luffy. Then obviously Sabaody, that was funny with Zoro somehow having gotten to Sabaody first yet again, but then getting lost by getting onto the wrong ship and then cutting the ship up. So the getting lost stuff, I think, Oda still consistently finds new ways to make it funny. I might be biased again with Zoro in just the sense that, like, because the character feels so much more one-dimensional than he was pre-time skip, it now feels like he's this really stoic, hard-ass character, and the only time Oda can kind of humanize him a little bit with, like, a flaw is that, but he gets lost and shit. I don't know. Let me do a poll. I don't know where to put that. I don't know where to put it now. I used to find it funnier. Now I feel like I wish that we got a bit more of the more... Like, Zoro had other gags pre-time skip that I found. Like, because there's moments that you could just... Like, Oda was more okay with portraying Zoro as clumsy or making random, like, silly mistakes or, like, looking like a bit of a dumbass in lots of scenarios pre-time skip. Like... You remember when he went training in the cold weather at Drum Kingdom because he thought that was a smart idea? So he, like, jumps in the cold river, and then he's like, he quickly realizes, like, wait, fuck, like, I'm fucking frozen as fuck now because of all the snow, and he's wandering around looking for a jacket, and it's silly and ridiculous, and, like, he's begging Usopp for a jacket, and they're like, no. That's, like, you know, that can only happen because Oda's willing to make Zoro look like a little silly or, like, a bad decision maker in points. nowadays Oda really doesn't do that with Zoro. And so, not to the same degree. And so it's kind of just like getting lost is the only thing that is kind of Zoro's like little humanizing joke. Where are we at? Did I miss some? Hold on. I'm catching up, guys. Jolly Joestar, thanks for the 2. Stream idea. Best places in One Piece to get freaky in. Okay, maybe we'll make that a penalty. Tune us up, thanks for the 5. Zoro's lack of direction gag peaked in Skypiea when he had what was basically a flying compass following him around the whole time. Oh, that was good. That was good. That is a very funny way to phrase it too. Shit, it is a really good gag. Oda used to think of really funny ways to do it. Are there any funny ways he's done it like in the New World? Particularly funny ways he's done it in the New World? He did get lost in like trying to get like just walking with them back to the meeting base at the start of Wano. That was more for plot I don't know. I think I might just be more biased against the gag because like Zoro's also lost other gag moments in general, and I preferred when Oda was more okay with like giving Zoro other like silly gag moments too, like him doing the Tarzan yell and stuff like that's another similar Skypiea moment, you know. But now it's just like oh, this character has to be this perfect, almost caricature of a badass, but I should still give him a joke once in a while. So like him getting lost, that's his only one thing. Like I just preferred the version of Zoro that felt more human, and Oda's willing to make a joke out of him more frequently, and him getting lost was just the peak joke that was most fun to do with him, you know? Akash Panda, thanks for the 5. And Alabasta the Marine said they were briefed on Zoro's habit of getting lost. Zoro's bad sense of direction being public knowledge is hilarious. That was a really good joke, too. It was just like, Marines, I gotta get through them. And they're like, no, you're going the wrong way. You should be going that way. He's like, what the fuck? JWP, thanks for the gifted memberships as usual. Everybody in chat say thank you for JWP for gifting you all so regularly with so many fucking memberships. A lot of people in chat are members over the years, thanks to JWP. So seriously, man, thank you. And everybody in chat is obviously very thankful as well. Amartya Sinha, Hitesh Maharia, and Def Misty, all make sure you say thanks to JWP. Amartya, I already see you said thanks. W is in the chat for JWP in general. One day you may be blessed with memberships from him, or you may have been blessed in the past with a membership from him. All right, let's get the stream likes up to 150 real quick. All right, Zoro's lack of direction. I think just because I don't care for it as much nowadays, because I feel like it's become Oda's one lazy way of making a joke for Zoro. I think it still falls in consistently funny, right? It was once... What would you guys feel? Tom says Morj, Zoro being the first one to return to Sabaody. Yeah, I already talked about that one. I'm saying like in the new world, right? So not just... Sabaody's still technically pre-New World. Jolly Joestar, thanks for the 5. I think Minority Hunter really took off because Zoro wasn't as fun post-time skip, and people found something interesting and fun to point out post-time skip. Yeah, and the thing is, that's like an out-of-story joke. It's not like an in-story, like it's not in-story like an actual gag that's happening. Drexel Rodriguez says Zoro with a Tontada was funny too. Yeah, that's true. Okay, like, I'll leave it to you guys. Do you feel like Zoro's gag is still consistently funny? Is Zoro's gag still consistently funny? Yes. Sometimes. Or I'll say, I should change it to occasionally, right? Because that's what this is. I'll keep it sometimes. Basically, are we putting it in this tier or this tier? One of these two tiers. I don't think it's bad. It's definitely not bad. It's not. It's. I don't think it's here. Or this isn't the bad tier, but I don't think it's in this tier. I think it has a long enough history of making me laugh that it can't be below this. You know. All right. I'm gonna keep it here. Inconsistently funny. All right, we're getting close. Tashigi not seeing correctly without her glasses. It goes here. It's not even. Maybe it should go here, but it's just not even a funny gag. It's just not. Yeah. Is that really how dinosaurs work? I think it does make me smile occasionally. I think the dinosaur thing was funny. Like that's Oda's version of dinosaurs. I think that's funny. Usopp tactics. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. That's very consistently funny. That will never. Usopp pulling out a rubber band in top tier, like in life or death battles, is never gonna stop being funny. Usopp pulling out a hammer that says 5 tons to scare the opponent, never gonna stop being funny. I also like that, like, as Usopp got stronger, pre-time skip, the amount that he claimed he could, like, his hammer also got heavier, even though it's the same thing. Because, like, the hammer that he used against the Mr. 4 duo, I believe he said it was like 5 tons, and then the hammer that he pulled out against Perona, he said it was 10 tons. He's not actually capable of lifting either of those, but I just thought it's funny that, like, it's somehow tracking with the power scaling and power growth, the power creep in the story. Like, as he gets stronger, the claims of how physically strong here, as he gets to be a better fighter, like a more skilled fighter, he's probably still can lift only about the same. But his lies also scale with the level of combat that he's involved in. I think this actually might go here. I think Usopp tactics fall in here. Do you feel like Usopp's tactics fall in here? I feel like this is consistently really good. Usopp's spell should have been a recurring move. Yeah, like, it's the fucking Civil War of Alabasta. Like, the Civil War of Alabasta. Like, millions of people murdering each other. People falling left and right. People dying. In the middle of it, you have Usopp... you have Usopp pulling out his chalkboard and scraping his fingers. And, like, one of my other favorite moments was, like, Usopp was, like, trying to fight Enel, and he was like, okay, that's it. He was fighting Enel to save Nami. So this is like Usopp, the weakest crew member who's arrived to save Nami. Neither of them are capable of fighting Enel at all. This is a life or death situation. And Usopp begins pulling out the Usopp spell and starts explaining, imagine this, a nail or like a paper cut right underneath your fingernail or something. He's telling this to Enel. And then we cut to Nami being like, oh no, this is... I can't imagine that. That's too painful. Like, she has stopped her escape attempt because Usopp's spell was actually effective on her. And Usopp was like, fool, close your ears. It's too strong. It'll fuck you up. I think this should be... A, not S, sometimes S, but always S. Okay, I can... Okay, I'll let you guys vote, all right? Let's call this S. Let's call this A, right? Where does Usopp's spell fall? He was doing an impression of Crocodile while Alberto was about to grow up. Yeah. I wouldn't call that Usopp tactics because that wasn't a battle strategy. That was just that was one of the impersonation. The impersonation running gags, I think, are always funny. I think if that existed, I'd put that in S. Jolly D. Joseph X2 need historically accurate dinosaurs in Joy Boy flashback. That would be really funny. That'd be a phenomenal little touch. All right. We'll keep it in S. We'll keep it in top. All right. Here we go. All right, Zoro and Sanji's rivalry. Oh, easy. This will never stop. This is like, I almost want to say, like, these two I might go in their own tier because this is like, it's hard to explain. This is a pillar of One Piece itself, you could say. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is like Buggy falling into success, Zoro and Sanji's rivalry. That's like a pillar of One Piece in itself. Yeah. This is almost its own tier. Nothing tops Buggy, I'm sorry. Yeah, but Zoro and Sanji's rivalry is just like... Maybe it's not always the funniest shit ever, so it's hard to say, but it's just... It feels so... I don't know. Like, it's such a... It's... This is like 50... this is... Out of Zoro's gag... Like, this is 50% of their gags, basically. Like, Sanji's gags are his own gag, the women stuff, and then fucking his Zoro rivalry. Zoro's gags are basically getting lost, and then, like, that's the one thing that can still get Zoro most regularly, like, joke stuff, you know? I want to be the warden. I think that this makes me laugh or smile occasionally. I like this one. And I love that he did eventually become the warden. I think I almost want to put this in consistently funny. I'm putting this in consistently funny. Magellan's bowel movements. I think that's consistently funny. For such a scary place, Impel Down had some good gags. Stowaway Caribou. I never considered that really as a gag. I never really thought that's a gag. It does... Is that a gag? Is that really a gag? That he's just hiding places? I just didn't think it's like a gag. Oh wait, that was the last one, because these two we didn't really count as running gags. Oh shit. Okay, I feel like that's... Yeah. Are there any classic One Piece running gags that are missing from this list that you guys can think of? I think the impersonations, I think that's a good gag. I think the tricky thing is that that's not specific to any one character, so the person who made this tier list seems to have been focused more so on character-specific gags. Yeah, I think that... first, let's get the stream likes to 150 real quick, because we're almost there. Yeah, I think I would... If I were to do a quick ranking... We'll probably do a poll for the number one. If I were to do a quick ranking, I would say this is 1, this is 2. I think for me, this is 3. I think this might be 3. I think the way Usopp fights and Usopp's like... Because like Usopp's tactics, you got to consider, that even includes shit like this. Like the sugar thing that he had made, in a sense. So put this 3, 4... Like, this will always be funny to me. Yeah, I'd say this is my personal ranking of 1 through 5. It's my personal ranking of 1 through 5. Virgo gag? We already have Virgo's gag. It's just kind of low. Somewhere here. Yeah, this is Virgo's gag. Bon Clay? Yeah, Bon Clay. Oh, Foxy! Oh my god. If we had Foxy in here, Foxy's gags of dressing up as somebody, and then Foxy's gags of being upset, I think those would both have arguments for being the funniest shit ever. Nami beating up Luffy, I think that's almost never funny. Jinbei's gag should have been in there. No, Nami beating up Luffy is sometimes funny. It's just complicated. It's context dependent. Yeah, Ace sleeping gags. So we have some good ones. I think Foxy's gags could be in the top tier. I think Foxy's gags have an argument for top tier. Yeah, are you that guy? Luffy bursting back in and Luffy having an epiphany, then bursting in and being like, wait a second, are you that guy's sister? Then Foxy hitting him, and Luffy being like, what, I was tricked? And then Foxy also revealing, and I was the chef too. And Luffy being like, what? All right, let's do the poll. Jaibura's lion gag, that's a good one. Akash Bennett sings, so it's a mystery thing. I like that too, and I like that was a Zoro and Luffy one. No, actually a few of them just accepted that it's a mystery current and stuff like that. Tilestone yelling? Eh. Where we at? Yeah, let's do that, and I'll also do others. I'll do the poll for the ones that we've got, and then I'll do polls for ones that aren't mentioned. Zoro, Luffy, Usopp, Chopper. Oh, they all did the mystery current. Okay. Buggy falling into success. Let's start with this. Then we'll throw in stuff like Foxy. Yeah. Does his bounty is lower than mine count as a gag? Yeah, it does. It's a running gag. I just don't know if it would end up in the top tier of gags. Okay, so Buggy wins pretty confidently, which makes sense. It's just hard to beat that one because it's so plot relevant. Like, seeing Buggy as a fucking Yonko is just so fucking it's a gag that that shapes the fucking narrative of One Piece, which is funny. Okay, let me also throw in, just out of curiosity. No, I think it's gonna beat Foxy. There's no point. It's just too big for anything else. So it almost belongs in its own tier. I'll make this red. Remember when Buggy's gag was that his nose was red? And then Oda landed on the far better gag. The nose being red gag only worked when Buggy was, strong and intimidating because, he was a strong pirate by East Blue standards, right? He was essentially a Yonko of East Blue, right? So the nose gag was funny in that context simply because, but funny sometimes in that context simply because, it's actually scary when, if somebody seemingly insults his nose or something, he can fly off the handle and just kill them. But now he's, so weak that there's no fear related to Buggy. So his new gag is that he sucks really hard and he still somehow finds success. Eric Reed says, where's the Luffy and Usopp doing crew impressions? Unfortunately, that was not in this list. If it was, it would be up here in funniest shit ever. So I think several things that are part of funniest shit. So the way this tier list seems to work is that it's character specific, whoever made this. So it's missing several things, because Luffy and Usopp doing the crew impressions, that's more broad strokes. But that would be in the funniest shit ever. I think Foxy's gags would be in the funniest shit ever. I think Usopp or Kaku being mistaken for Usopp would be in the funniest shit ever. There's a lot of really good ones. Arlong Krieg, Kuro Buggy, the Yonko Feast Blue. Yeah. Sanji's bounty poster. That would be in funniest shit ever as well. The old school bounty poster that he had. That's easily in the funniest shit ever because it led to the funniest moment in One Piece. So this is missing a lot of stuff. It's unfortunately missing a lot of stuff. But we got what we got. Happiness Punch. I'd put that in consistently funny. Yeah. So we're missing a lot that would go towards the top tier, unfortunately. It's just the way it is. But, yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming through. This week, we are getting One Piece back, so the series is back online. Yeah, it's been a nice little break. And I'm definitely looking forward to the LBF arc continuing. Watch out for tomorrow's video because it talks about a lot of what we seem set up to get in 2025. So thanks for coming through, everybody. And yeah, I will talk to you all later. Wait, let me just give a quick check to make sure that Paulie being an anti-perv, that's also really funny. Chopper, emergency food supply, I agree. Doesn't seem like I'm missing any supers. Don't think I'm missing any supers. Okay, I think I'm good. Thank you for coming through, everybody. I am very hungry, so we are close to, it is basically my dinner time. I do have to eat. Thank you all for coming through, and I will talk to you all later.